Today's episode is brought to you by Swish. Personalised videos. Give the Dons fan in your life the ultimate surprise, whether it be a birthday, another celebration, or maybe just a sledge for your mate. Get in the tailored video from your favourite Don star. Ryan, I know you've used Swish before. Can you tell me an anecdote about how it went?
Well, a mate of mine is a Collingwood man, so I don't know why I know him.
Boo.
But let's leave that aside for now. But he had a kid a couple of years ago, and I thought, what a nice present I could get him. I could get him a nice, like a cameo-esque sort of appearance from Dane Swan, who was on there.
Boo.
And he did, look, he put together a really good piece. He said, congratulations on the baby. He also told my mate that his life was over. And he congratulated him on what would be the start of many kids. And he's now had 2, so he wasn't wrong there. But no, it was a really good experience, and Dane did the job. Thankfully, he did it for me this time rather than at Anzac Day.
Well, there's better people than Dane Swan on Swish right now, I'll tell you that much, because you can get Nate Caddy, Mert. You can get a tailored message for Nate Caddy. Is that something you'd like? I reckon you'd love that.
Wouldn't mind one from Old Horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty good. And guess what? If you use the code TheSash, you get 10% off at your checkout. You can find the link in our show description, also on our social media, but use code TheSash for 10% off. Let's start the show. A false start, some cyclonic winds, and a fixture chain that has well and truly cooked the fixture. This is The Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you as always on a Monday night. And joining me in Castaway Studios for the very first time in 2025 is Mert. Hello, mate.
G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back to the pod. How are you feeling?
Thank you. Yeah, feeling good, mate. Feeling buoyant.
Yeah?
About not having had to play this week. It was a fantastic result in the end.
Undefeated, mate. We're still undefeated. And also joining us for the first time in 2025 in the studio is Ryan. Hello, mate.
Hey, Rob, how are we doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
A stay of execution is always a good result in my books. So very exciting, but frightening to consider what's coming up this week.
It certainly is. I don't like saying it, but the Hawks did look pretty handy over the weekend. We may as well just have a quick look at what happened over the weekend, fellas, for us, which was nothing because there was a cyclone. And our game against the Gold Coast has been postponed to round 24 after we play Carlton.
We could be the first team, or will be the first team ever, to lose 2 games in round 24.
I know. It's a serious possibility.
It's going to be good.
It's a real possibility. It does feel to me like the AFL's looked at that and gone, these teams won't be playing finals. Let's just put it right there, and there won't be a problem. Can you see any scenario, Ryan, where one of these 2 teams, us or the Suns, wins that game and then goes on to win a final?
Probably the Suns more so than us. I think that's more likely than anything. But the idea of having to play it's Carlton and the Suns in 1 week. Is that that?
I think so. So I don't know. I was trying to work it out myself, and look, I mean, some people who know more than me might have gone into more detail, but my sort of feeling is maybe it might be
a floating fixture anyway in round 24.
Yeah. So a possibility is you could be something like we could potentially play the Blues on a Thursday night or a Friday night even. Then the rest of round 24 players, and then that next week, maybe even like a Wednesday or something, or another Thursday, then you play the Suns game. Then there's obviously no games that weekend, and then should one of the 2 teams still be in contention, which we'd love to believe is us,
watch the finals get out to Metricon for that
weekend. Yeah, so I don't like it, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it's something we really want as as a club that's as bad as we are at the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Yeah, I've had
I would have thought just swapping the venues would have made a little bit of sense, but
I don't. Yeah, I think my understanding is that neither the G or Marvel was available because they were having concerts and/or cricket. I think Sheffield Shield was still on at the G last weekend.
They still play Sheffield cricket.
Yeah,
Fuck.
And I think were Green Day at Marvel? Green Day were in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Was they at Marvel?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's it. So I don't know. I mean, look, I'll be honest, a bit of wake me up when September ends into Don's footy, I feel like makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think that's sort of why. I don't know, maybe we could have just played at the hangar. That would have been fine. Just get him down there.
Yeah.
Or go to Port Melbourne, our second home.
Yeah.
Old Port Essendon. As we were talking about off air. Fellas, before we launch into a bit of preview stuff, because look, the season hasn't started. You boys weren't here last week, so we may as well get your thoughts on what's happening. I will just, for one last time, plug the Londons event for all the London-based or UK-based or even European-based listeners of the show. So it's this Friday at the Swan at the Globe, which is in London somewhere. And if you're interested in going and watching the game against the Hawk with some other Dons faithful, there is an event there. There's breakfast included. There's drinks included. You buy a ticket. It's going to be a bunch of fun. Dress up in red and black. I mean, Murdy, watching the Dons with a few faithful in London sounds like a bit of fun, don't it?
A few pints of Guinness would not be bad.
Yeah, definitely. A bit of breakfast Guinness. If you're interested in that, send the show a DM and I can flick you the link to that one. Fellas, I reckon we just do a bit of preview, take 2 of last week, and I get your feeling. Who feels like taking the new ball? Who feels ready? Do you reckon you're ready, Mert?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, it's a big year for who?
Hang on, I need to get my headphones.
Oh, he's going to get his headphones on for this. All right, headphones are on. The headphones are on. You're getting serious. Here we go. It's a big year for...
A bunch of blokes, really. I think Archie Perkins is one who really stands out to me. We've kind of been waiting to see if he's going to take that next step. I think, thinking about it recently, I think he's... everyone's been really kind of willing him to and has been a bit disappointed, I think it's fair to say. I think in his defence, he's been kind of played in quite a strange role up until this point. And I think probably having Stringer playing in that half forward and, high half forward or, kind of taller mid forward role has probably not helped him. So I'm really interested to see how he goes this year when, he's got more of a chance to step up in that role. And I think he will be playing like mostly forward, maybe a little bit through higher up the ground. So yeah, I think for me, I'm still big on Archie. I think he's got the work ethic. Clearly has the work ethic. He's got the talent. So it's just a matter of time. I think. I hope. So yeah, he's the big one for me.
Yeah, he's a common one that's been discussed this pre-season. Of like, there are probably 3 names I've heard a lot, and Perkins is definitely one of them. I think the thing I would find interesting is that if you are playing the Stringer role, it does mean that you're probably going to be taking a slightly better defender than when Stringer was there. And because there were times during that Geelong practice games where he had a Jack Henry on him, who's a very good defender. I'm interested to see how he handles that on a more regular basis, because we've seen him bay off some pretty meek opponents at times. But if he starts playing well, starts kicking goals, and starts being a bit of a worry for opposition, how's he going to handle having, better quality players on him?
I think he's got to get up the ground. I think he needs to use his tank, which is in that respect, he's going to be a very different kind of half forward as to what Paco was. But he is good overhead. But I think it's got to be that almost kind of you hate to say it, but like a Mark McHugh type kind of role where he's pushing up the ground more and then coming back in and trying to hit the scoreboard.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the way he's got to play it. I mean, almost like Stringer was in the last couple of years, where they would just go, okay, you're in the midfield for a couple of minutes. That'll at least give him the ability to break what would most likely be one of those harder defenders. Then he, as you're saying, Mert, he can slide back in when needed. And I think that's probably going to be his best mole. I think the closer we can get him to goal, the better. Every time he's had a good game, he's been nearer the goals. He's a strangely good kick at set shots.
Yeah.
I think he can make space, and you don't want to put too much pressure on these other guys, but you kind of hope that if he's taking a good defender, then someone like Caddy or Kako can take the opportunity of having a lesser light bothering them in the defence so that they can kind of get on the scoreboard. Maybe even him at his best is actually taking one of those guys out just to make the forward line a bit more potent, even if he doesn't hit the scoreboard.
I think he's a natural forward. He's one of the few guys who will actually back himself into kicking that goal. And when he's within 55, then more often than not, he's actually going to, go for goal. And I think you need that in your forward line. Definitely.
Because, we've got, our captain is almost too team driven, as we know, going forward. Very rarely likes to bite off the kick, old Zach. But look, he has been a midfielder by trade as opposed to being a forward. Let's move to you, Ryan. It's a big year for who?
So mine is another guy that we've been waiting for to turn up for a while. It's Elijah Tsatas. So mine's not necessarily like a huge knock on him, because he's obviously had a couple of interesting years, mostly in the VFL. But last year I did feel that towards the back end of the year, he really, every time he came to the AFL, he just didn't quite take that opportunity. He seemed a bit overwhelmed by the experience. So this year, having seen him have a really good preseason, his body looks really good, super good tan, and he's been
which we love,
and he's been firing up in the preseason games, especially the game against Geelong, which I think a lot of people took notice of him I mean, a lot of people chucked him on a super coach team and fantasy team after that. This is the year that he's got to go, I'm ready, and that number 5 looks on my back and it looks like it's supposed to be there, because late last year, even personally, I was looking at him going, geez, he's looking like a bit of a bust, and he's contracted through till the end of 26. So it's not like it's a huge contract issue for him, but it's time for him to take that position in the midfield and really just own it. Him and Caldwell and the guys like that.
Agree. Yeah, I really liked what I've seen from him this preseason. I think a lot of people have. Obviously, we can speak at length about his ball use, which is obviously a big work in progress. But I don't know. I think there are just certain players in the competition who are just natural ball winners, and they just know how to win the ball in traffic. And he showed the signs in those practice games of someone who can do that. Under AFL heat, under AFL pressure, when everyone's putting their absolute best in, time will tell. But he's shown that to me in pre-season that he could be someone who can do that.
Yeah, I think for me, there's never been a question mark over his ball winning ability or, his running ability or anything like that. It's always been around his skills. And I know he has put in a heap of time, a heap of effort through the off-season into his kicking, into trying to rectify that. So for me, the question is really about whether he's coming from too far back and trying to rectify it in too short a period of time, because like his kicking it's not good. It's improved a lot now, but prior to that, it was, right up there with the worst you'll ever see to come through AFL. So
McGrath level.
Yeah. We'll reel off the list of Don's players who are right up there with him. But so credit to him because he has put in a heap of work. So yeah, we'll just see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, because I know they spoke about how David Rath, who's been at the club now for a little bit, was working with him to essentially just almost reteach him how to kick. And I can just recall this one game, one of those games he played, he was playing on the wing, got the ball, had, a fair bit of time, and it just looked like someone who was just over.
I feel like it was that Geelong game, was it? And
Might
it
have been,
literally went off at like a 45-degree angle. Like he wound up on the wing to try and boot it like 50 metres down the line, and he booted it into like the middle of the ground.
Yeah, he does me on a Saturday afternoon at the park, basically. But yeah, he looked like a kid who wasn't just doing it instinctually and going, this is how I know how to play. It was going, all right, what I've been taught, all right, do this, do this, do this, do this. And, he either has to learn that very quickly and that become the instinct, or does he have to revert to his instincts? But clearly they've said to him that how you were doing it before isn't good enough. So you've got to work on it now.
Yeah, conversely, I think like even looking at just that brief, those brief examples that we've seen through the preseason, it's noticeable that his ball drop is a lot better already. So that's a product of all the work he's put in. So hopefully, it just continues on that path.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like if you're playing that traditional inside mid role, and if you have a high position game and you get 30 touches, often it's going to be that it's going to be 20 handballs and 10 kicks. And if you're feeding it out to our better users with those hands 9 or 10 times, like that's a good game from the inside mid. You're winning it. You're getting it out to a Mert, to a Martin, whoever it might be. Mate, you've done your job, so I'm pretty happy. But yeah, you're right. It's a big year for him, and particularly this first couple of weeks, considering that, look, I don't expect to see Darcy Parish this weekend, and I'd be shocked if we saw him the week after, that you've kind of got this spot for bulk minutes these next couple of games. Have a crack, and the Hawks look pretty formidable on Friday. You'll go up against some pretty good mids this weekend.
I think it's got to be one of him or Hobbs who's going to get that run. Yeah. I think Hobbs kind of sits in a similar boat as far as his disposal goes. I'm a big fan of Hobbsy because I think that like pure kind of inside. I think Tsatas is a bit different because he played a bit of both.
Yeah,
through juniors, like he was a bit inside. Big accumulator of the footy, whereas Hobbsy was 100% inside.
Yeah.
And I really like that grunt player, but I think he just needs to learn to, instead of, trying to bite off so much with his kicking, like if you look at how Joel Selwood used to play, he used to just hit up 20-metre targets. He never, ever tried to overdo it.
Yeah.
So I think if Hobbsy can just limit himself a bit better, then, that'll go a long way for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's another one that I think
it's a massive year for him as well.
You're right. There was, forgot who this person was, but someone commented on one of our channels, one of our pages, saying he was surprised that Ben Hobbs hasn't been spoken about more. that it's a big year for him. And you're right, Mert, because the big knock I always had on Hobbsy that it felt like he was too used to being the big kid. Like he was always trying to take on tackle after tackle, and it just stopped working after a while. Looking at that, this sample size of the preseason, I was like, oh wow, he looks bigger and stronger. But I think that's always been his thing. Is that sometimes like, hey, you don't need to break through this extra player.
Yeah, it's first option.
Just take your first option, do the right thing, and let the play progress. Because like he played like a man possessed in that practice game. Like he played like a man who's gone, hey, there might be a spot for you in this team, or you're not going to play. Do you want it? And he's playing like a guy who was like, I need this spot. That's the way he was playing to me.
He plays with you mentioned the word grunt sort of, and I think that really encapsulates Hobbs so much because he played with a huge amount of grunt against Geelong. He was tackling everyone that moved. I think he and Tsatas are so interesting because I personally think Tsatas is more skillful and Hobbs is probably a little harder. He's probably got a harder nose. Question without one, who do you think's got more upside, Tsatas or Hobbs?
I think Tsatas, for me, looks like the long-term guy. If you're going to say which of these two guys could become an absolute superstar one day, I think Tsatas has that sort of more modern profile.
Yeah, it's a hard question
very
because
hard question.
I just think Tsatas depends on how you kind of look at the question itself because I think Tsatas is just coming from so far back with his kicking. So I mean, if he does magically, fix his kicking and becomes a good kick, then absolutely. But I think for me the answer's Hobbs. So yeah, I think Hobbs has more upside, and I think he's got less to fix in his game.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I looked at that game and it's we've got a 26-man team at the time. I look at them and I really would love to know at the club because I don't think you can have them both, and I don't think there's room for both of them. So it's going to be really interesting to see, particularly against Hawthorn and these teams early on, who they're leaning towards. Because I feel like they can look at Tsatas and go, you can jump right in the mid, you can go there. With Hobbs, I feel like they're trying to make him a bit of a jack of all trade. Well, we'll try down back, we'll try down forward, and it's not doing him any favours. No. So I feel like at the moment when I look at it, I feel like the club prioritises Tsatas maybe a bit more because of, I think, that optimism that if he, as you were saying, if he gets that kicking right, he does look like a pick 5.
Yeah,
it's going to be really interesting.
I wonder how much of that, though, as well, was because I know a lot of last year we were playing Hobbs out of position. We were playing him on a half-forward flank or a forward pocket and just getting him to be that, defensive forward. I wonder how much of that, though, was also born out of the fact that we just didn't have anyone any tackling pressure for so much of the year.
Yeah, true.
And we actually needed that role played as well. And I don't know if you're going to have a Tsatas playing that role.
No, true.
I don't. No, definitely not. Who would you have taken of the two?
I think it's a bad question for me because I don't even know how to answer it. But I do look at Tsatas and it's probably just the recency bias because I love how Hobbs attacks the game, but he does he does get a bit lost. And Tsatas, I think if you could get the best version of him, I think he's the one I would probably prioritise giving minutes to. I think Hobbs falls in that category of he's a bit like the Guelphys. You're so good at the hard stuff and the 1%ers. I think he gets used out of position, like you were saying, Mert, because he can play that role.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you said about Tsatas, he can do one thing. If he's clean and silky in the midfield, he's great, but that's it. So Hobbs is probably more versatile, but I think the upside is with Tsatas still if he's at his best.
If he's at his best, yeah. And we've spoken about last couple of shows that we've done, and you spoke about before we went on air, but if Zach Merritt, as he's alluded to, and we've seen a little bit in the preseason, if he's to spend less time at centre bounces and less time, more time around the square, it does mean that maybe there is room for both of these guys. If other players are going, oh no, I'm not going to have 95% of centre bounce attendances and I'm going to float forward or float back a little bit more, whatever it may be, then possibly there is two guys there. And, whilst they're very young, and you can even throw Colbourne in this mix who's a young guy as well. If 5 years from now we still have Tsatas, Hobbs and Colbourne in the midfield, they'll be brutes. You'd think they'd be brutes of the competition in 5 years' time.
Right.
And it's been a long time since Essendon's had a brutish midfield. They're still young guys now and they've still got plenty to go. But could be something for the future. Let's go on to our next question. I'll go to you for this one, Murdy. How does Essendon improve in 2025?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think the most obvious one is the defence because like our defence was just diabolical for most of the year last year. So I think personnel obviously plays a part in that, and we see if Reid will actually be able to get out on the park. Hopefully he does. I think Ben Mackay just needs to improve a lot because he started off the year quite well, but his defensive work in the second half of the year was absolutely woeful. He forgot how to handball in particular.
Oh my God, that's so bad.
It was so bad. And yeah, I mean, I think I think it'd just be interesting to see how we go and what kind of structure we go with down back, because I'm not sure Laverty's got that much longer really down back. I'm not sure where he fits in with, he's obviously played or been forced to play in a position where he's playing on guys who are inches taller than him every week for so long. I just wonder where he fits in with, some of the other guys in there, some of the bigger guys now. And, whether we're going to continue with Redmond, McGrath, some of those guys all down back, or pushing him up the field, or what we're going to go with. So, and also, of course, Coxie as well. I think there's huge question marks over him and where he plays, where he fits in, if anywhere.
If he can play, yeah.
Yeah, so, a lot of unknowns, but I think that's really got to be the key area where we shore up our defence.
Yeah, I agree. It was something that Cal Toomey and I spoke about, was that, we saw a quarter last season in the preseason where we had Reid, Ridley, Mackay, and that was all we saw. And, if we can see the majority of games this season with those three guys there every single week, I think it's going to go a long way.
I think Ridley's body's cooked.
You reckon?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays maybe a handful more games for Essendon.
Wow, that your big call, is it?
Yeah.
There we go. The Riddler's cooked, according to Mert.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because a guy at work was asking me about Ridley, and I said I never put him in my 22 because I can never expect him to be there. So I always I do live on that side of the street that I think I think his body's probably in a better position to hold up if Reid does play and Mackay, I forgot his name because he's so useless. Mackay, if they're playing and taking those larger figures, Ridley's ability to do that intercepting and get to that point where he's a little freer, that's when he's at his best. But you're right. I mean, if he has to do any more, his body will shut down. And it's not his fault.
But I also just don't understand, like, the positioning that we were using last year when those guys were in the team was Ridley was playing a lockdown defender and we were releasing Mackay. Like, you don't want Mackay released because he's useless with the ball in hand. No. You want to hide him in the back pocket.
He's exactly where he wants to be.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. And get the ball in Ridley's hand. Like, he's the best user we have down there.
Even against the Cats, and I might be probably potting him by, and he might not have played as many minutes, but anytime the camera found Mackay, I went, oh, Christ, you're out there. Yeah. And that's a positive, negative, because you kind of don't want to notice your defenders because that means probably their opposition hasn't had much of it either. But at the same time, you don't want to rely on him for anything other than punch, repeat. Repeat.
Yeah. Well, he's
kill ball. You want to see him kill the ball.
Yeah, well, I think he was top 3 or 4 for intercept marks in the comp last season. It was just unfortunate that he did that and you went, oh, wow, great mark. And then he'd do something horrific with it. And, particularly post-bye, there was some passages there where...
That Adelaide game where he just literally just handballed it to them.
He handballed it to them. It's like, I'm pretty sure you're the highest paid player in the competition this season. Yeah. What are you doing?
He's just the milk arrowroot of footballers.
Yeah.
He's just so plain. So plain. And I'm just glad that every season we have him, he gets paid incrementally less. Yeah. Because it hurts less.
It does. I'll ask you, Ryan, how does Essendon improve in 2025?
Yeah, mine kind of bounces a bit off what Mert's was. Mine was just simple structure. Yeah. I think the number one issue I've had, aside from the team sort of waning in the back end of the seasons, is that week to week, I was never confident what the setup was going to be, how the game plan was going to work, just structurally how we looked on field. I think if that's something that they can get under control or actually get a good grasp of, I think that's going to go a long way. And I don't think we're going to win more games than we did last year. I'm probably more in the camp that I think we might win maybe a few less. But my hope is that if we can structurally get on board and we can get the team looking the same each week and getting consistency going, I think we'll have less blowouts. We'll probably have more losses, but less blowouts. And I think for the long term, I think that'll probably be a good result. It's just game plan and setup. That's my big thing.
Yeah, well, stability is key. I mean, I think it's just the case in any team is that it could be the difference between a side sneaking the 8 versus finishing 11th or 12th is that you've had a good group of players have a strong, consistent year. And the simple reality is that a lot of our guys who we'd probably considered to be our better players just have not done that over the past, 3 or 4 years, really. That's just kind of been the scenario.
Senior players have just let us down a lot. And I think if this year we can get those guys, even the Redmonds who, 2 years ago, I think we would have put him in, top 5 players. Last year, he really let us down a lot.
Yeah.
And it kind of falls back on the defence again. There's a lot of guys in there, McGrath, Redmond, Ridley's body and things like that. It's just, I'm hopeful now that these guys have gotten to an age where that is in the rearview mirror, and that if the club can have a structured consistently, they'll know what they're supposed to do every week. Because sometimes you look at guys out there, they look lost.
Yeah, and I think for the first time in a long time, we seem to have a core nucleus of guys who are, probably under 23, like Durham, Caldwell, Martin in particular, all, finished top 5 in our BNF last year. And they set standards, whether it's on the field, which I know, obviously Caldwell and Durham in particular do on the field, or off the field with training standards. And I think we've had a void of leadership from really across the board, save for probably Merit for a long period of time. So I agree. I think we need to have got those younger guys who are really setting standards. I think we need to have the older guys as well. So it's not just Merit who's kind of driving this moving forward.
Yeah.
All said. We'll move to the last preview question, fellas, before we take a little break. Murdy, Essendon will finish where on the ladder, and why will we do so?
I think 16th this year. Yeah, I don't know. Like, we traded out our best player for the last 5 years or so. Traded him for pick 50, whatever, which is good.
What a win.
Yeah, good start to old mate. So thanks, Matty. So we've lost our kicking power, our goal kicking power. I think we're going to be heavily reliant on Caddy and Kako if he can, actually kick some goals for us. We hope he can. I'm yet to really see, to be honest, I'm just yet to see any real improvement, any tangible improvement since Scott, I think, has been at the club. I think maybe there's better training standards from reports, perhaps. I think there's clearly, through this last draft, there's a focus on actually recruiting skill for once, which is great, and pace.
Which we love.
Which, is again something you'd think is pretty important in an athlete game, but managed to miss it all in the past. So, I don't know. I just think we're years off. And I think even, I think about, like, Caldwell's probably my favourite player, but I think about him in another side and I'm kind of like, well, like, is he... A lot of people would say Libba's not an A-grader. I think he's an A-grader. How does he compare to Libba? I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Libba.
Yeah.
So, and for me, he'd be one of our best players. So, I still think we've got a long way to go. I just don't see it, to be honest.
There we go. After the positivity last week, there was a calls for a bit of negativity, and I'm glad we're back. I'm glad we're down here.
Reality, mate.
The darkness is good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
It's a clean colour.
Hey, look, you can't be upset when you have no expectations. It's a good way to live life.
Oh, you still can be upset, mate. Trust me.
Ryan, same question to you.
Yeah, I've got us 13th. I kind of just did an expected ladder earlier because I'm just so flush with time.
Don't worry, mate. That baby's going to come, and you go, "What did I do with myself?"
Yeah, I got a couple of days left to enjoy myself. So, no, look, I just think we're really young. I just think we're really young. I think fundamentally our consistency is still going to be an issue. I think it's been tidied up. I don't know whether to trust the club propaganda, but it's all out there saying, standards are higher, as you were saying, Mert, and guys are performing better. But look, I just kind of looked at this expected ladder and I went, there's at least 12 teams that are better than us. They're not only just better skilled-wise, they're just at a different time in their era. I hate the phrase rebuild with Essendon because that means that there was something beforehand. And it's like, I always think the club's like we're building on a block of land that a dodgy contractor just got fired off of.
Yeah.
And we're saying, oh, we're rebuilding. No, you're just starting from scratch. So I like just restart really because we really do feel like we're starting from scratch. 20 years of mediocrity, we're starting from scratch. So
we're draining the swamp. That's what we're doing.
We are draining the swamp. And well, you know, we're what? We're 2 years into Scott's era after the phenomenal Rutten Worsfold era. And if the AFL website is to believe, there's talks to potentially.
I was saving this.
I
was saving this to rile Mert up. We may as well go to it now. But Mert, exclusive coming to you from Channel 9 Footy. Essendon is eyeing to lock in Brad Scott long term, despite 2 seasons without finals, as per Tom Morris. There's a bit of Worsfold round 1 win signature going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I did notice Hurdy's kind of come back into the media landscape. He's just started to make appearances on Footy Classified, and boy, oh boy, is this timely. This is licking my lips over here. This is great.
He is working at Port Melbourne at the moment as coaching director.
We decided off air that it's from now on to be referred to as Port Essendon from now on because that's what it is. It's Little Essendon down there.
A double loss in round 24 this year, just leading straight into Hurdy, sliding in. It's looking all good.
But I'd say 13th. I think that's about the mark.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at it, I'm going, look, I still think probably Melbourne's still better than us. I don't care how they were last year. They've still got Clayton Oliver and Petrarca. They're going to be fine.
Yep.
Gold
Matt's
Coast.
gone.
Gold Coast, I forgot about him. Gold Coast, Dogs, Freo, Port, Collingwood, Carlton, Hawthorn, Sydney, Geelong, GWS, Brisbane. They're all significantly better than us across the board. The only teams I've potted is probably Adelaide, St Kilda, North, West Coast, and Richmond, and that's not great.
They're pretty. That's a pretty fair list.
Yeah.
That's a pretty fair list. Yeah, look, I've had a few good chats with some people this pre-season about the ladder predictor that they've done, and there was a general consensus that it's really hard to put Essendon above a lot of teams. Understood. Hey, fellas, we're going to take a little breather, and we're going to come back and we're going to read some questions from the mailbag because people have sent in some interesting stuff. Let's hear what they had to say. Welcome back to part 2 of the show. Now, there wasn't a game this weekend, as I'm sure you're all very familiar with by now. So there isn't hot takes because there's nothing to be hot or take about unless you want to get your best Cyclone chat in. I don't know. Haven't got any Cyclone jokes unless you guys are sitting on something funny that you want to reel off. No.
I'm just glad I don't live in Queensland.
Yeah. I mean, my cousin lives in Brisbane, and I feel like she spent more nights getting pissed with her neighbours than actually being battered down by a storm. Every night my phone WhatsApp was like, "How's the storm?" And she's like, "At the neighbours having champagne." "How's the storm?" "Oh, we're having martinis today." Didn't seem like much happened in Brisbane. Gold Coast might have been a bit different.
I did see someone was using quick firm cement as sandbags. It's like genius.
Yeah,
smart.
That is
genius.
Not.
Yeah.
A lot of IQ points going on there.
Sounds like my neighbours in Thornbury doing that. Let's get into the mailbag, fellas. Now, normally the mailbag from now on is going to be a standalone episode with Jolie, but tonight we're going to be doing the mailbag live here on the Monday show. So if you do want to ask us a question, you can send us an email at thesashpod@gmail.com, or you can just DM us on any of the social media platforms that we're on. But I reckon I'll take the new ball, fellas, and I'll ask the first question. This is from Mark Collings via email. He said, would you rather the club use 2 first-round picks and a future first to try and lure Harley Reid, or do we take the picks to the draft? Mert, what's your thoughts?
Get Harley Reid.
Get Harley Reid?
Yeah.
Get him at all costs?
Yeah.
Yeah? Ryan?
Yeah, he's hot as.
Yeah,
simple question. I mean, in every regard. I mean, I don't mean to be crass, but we'd probably just fuck up the picks anyway.
Yeah.
So
completely agree.
So just grab him. He's hot, and I got to admit, you imagine putting him into that list this year. Yeah. I'm genuinely a completely different man. I just emotionally, just spiritually, I'm a completely different person. If Harley Reid was setting up in the guts with Caldwell and Durham, that's hot.
Yeah.
Can I give you a scenario? Essendon finishes bottom 4.
Yeah.
Melbourne also don't have a good year. So let's say we're sitting on pick 4 and pick 7.
Yeah.
And we've had a real shit year. Do you still want to trade those picks away?
I don't reckon those picks will get it done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there'll be futures and whatever
Amazing
else.
to
But
think.
I guess my point is we have a garbage year and we've got low picks. It's been a bad year. For my personal opinion is that if we finish, if you finish top 8, no brainer. Fucking go for it. If you finish kind of 9 to 12 or 13. I guess it kind of depends on the deal. But I think if you finish 14 or below, I think you got to bank the picks, because spend the picks in the draft, because clearly we need more than just one player.
Nah.
You know?
Operation Harley.
Operation.
I might be taking it a bit too seriously, because in that scenario, if we had picked, say, 4 and 7, and we say we went, no, we're going to go to the draft, we're pretty much telling Zach Merritt, you're never playing finals, because that's saying we're still going to say we need 2 guys that are going to take 2 to 3, maybe 4 years to get ready.
That's a good point.
And if you said we're going for Harley, that's kind of telling the older guys in the team, no, we're going now.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably couldn't ask for a better guy to come in, but it's crazy to think. Imagine if you offered picks 4 and 7 to West Coast and a future first, and they went, nah. I mean, that's some powerful. That's a powerful player right there.
I think it augurs as being like your Judd Kennedy type deal. Like, I feel like it's going to take something massive for this to happen.
And who would we be in that case? Would we be West Coast?
We're Carlton. We're Carlton.
Oh, it still doesn't work.
Yeah, we're Carlton in this scenario. I'm West Coast to West Coast in this scenario, and we're Carlton.
It still didn't work then.
Yeah. Let's go another question. I'm not sure if either of you guys got the run sheet in front of you. That's okay. I'll read them out. This one's from DMVH via Instagram. He said, a seriously crazy, ridiculously even draw. My question is, why do teams not just play each other once? No, seriously. What the hell has happened? Thoughts on the draw?
It's a valid point. I think that obviously it just comes down to the greed of the AFL, that they want as many games as possible. The fixture's always been rooted. It's never fair. It doesn't make sense. If we did something like the NFL where everyone plays each other an equal amount over like 4 years, that would be fine, because at least it kind of eventually balances itself out. But no, I'm with him. I wish we just played each other once and just got on with it, because it hurts less, and I only have to cry 17 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Do you might not remember, Mert, because I don't think you were alive in 1980. But
no.
Once upon a time,
Thanks, mate.
Once upon a time, fellas. Once upon a time, there used to be this little competition called the VFL, and the VFL had 12 teams in the competition, and there was 22 rounds, because they all played each other twice, home and away. So I'm of the opinion that you don't cut the season short. I reckon you double it. I reckon you go. What was 18 teams? I reckon you play 34 games. You play each other twice.
There's too much fucking footy. I'm sick of it. Shorten this fucking shit. It's painful.
But if we were good, would you like 34 weeks of footy?
It's like, how would we ever be good? It's ridiculous.
You make a fair point. Well, anyway, I'm of the old school VFL, or like
I'd
Premier League
rather
philosophy, where you play to the home and away, so there's no complaining, because they're going to come to your place, you're going to go to their place. That's the fixture. Deal with it.
I'd rather they just play everyone once. That's it. Off into finals, whatever. But maybe have like a couple of breaks through the season. So, it's not going to be obviously done in,
6-7 games, break, 6-7 games, break, 6-7 games.
Something like that, and maybe chuck in like State of Origin or something like that. And I actually
that'd be good.
Michael Voss had a good idea. I don't know if you guys heard it on the radio the other day, where he'd actually proposed for opening round, obviously scrap whatever shit's going on right now, and have a game played in each different state. Like, how good of a spectacle would that be and great exposure for, kids in Northern Territory to be able to go and see a live footy game.
Yeah.
Game in Tassie.
Yep. Yeah. Every single state for that opening round.
Yep.
And have that as a big marquee opening, and then off into regular season.
Do we include the ACT in this, or
you got it? You got it. I mean, you can even add in regional. You could chuck one in Bendigo, just for the fun.
Yeah.
Just for the fun of it. I mean, that's not.
Get the locals excited.
Yeah. I love that idea, though. I really do.
We'll get a game down at Port Essendon with the boys. That'll be good.
Yeah. Northport Oval is a great place to watch footy.
Yeah. It's a great oval.
I'm not sure if they still do $5 cans of Melbourne's. I mean, inflation might have changed things, but there was a day where I could get $5 cans of Melbourne bitters down at Port Essendon Oval. It was good times.
They used to have the best hot dogs there, and they've changed it. I haven't brought it up with them, but I want to. They had the best hot dogs. Now they're just a bit suspect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I reckon let's save the Port Essendon chat, because there's going to be a point in this season where things get real dark, and we're just going to become a purely Port Essendon focused pod.
Yeah.
With, the gang down there.
Get Heps and Wanganeen.
Yeah, Heps, Wanganeen, Boulders, Hurdy, all the boys will be down there, and it'll just be a Port Essendon pod from now on.
I'm
next
there
question.
already.
This is from Matt Shads 86 via Instagram. He says, can we afford to lose Draper at the end of the year? Now, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Elaborate, please.
He's just not that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fair.
He's unreliable, his body's unreliable, and he's unreliable.
Okay.
The word unreliable.
Counterpoint.
The word unreliable is the key there. If him at his best or him versus Geelong in a preseason match is consistent, then he's as valuable as what I think he wants to be paid.
Yeah.
But as you said, I think he's so Jekyll and Hyde. There's Draper and then there's Drapes. Draper's jumping over packs, punching. He's doing the hard yards. He looks lean. He looks good.
Yeah.
Drapes, I don't know what he does on the weekend other than footy, but it's not helping.
He's having cans and watching the
crushing cans down at Northport probably.
Yeah.
But I think a reliable Draper is worth it. Unreliable, no.
Yeah. Okay.
I think on top of that as well, like
I think it also depends what happens with Nick Bryan.
That's it. Like I think we've got like Bryan is a really good. He's far too good to be a VFL ruckman.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
neither of them can really play as a second ruck. Like it's just we haven't found the perfect tandem with them. So, I'm getting to the stage where I'd rather just see Nick Bryan be fully blooded and given the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, John Ralph did report that Drapes is expected to be signing with Essendon and staying. So it'll be interesting to see what that does for Nick Bryan.
Nick Bryan, I am unquestionably, I love that man because I think the best Draper Bryan is 60 Bryan, 40 Drapes. The rest of the time, chuck Drapes down the forward line because I think Drapes is great when you need a bit of a, like, I think I described it as Bryan's a well-trained dog at the park and Draper's the one that's humping everything. You know, you don't know what he's going to do. It's just he could be good, he could be bad, but he's just wild. I think you bring him in there when you need that wild card, but you don't bring
wild card, bitches.
But I think Bryan's he's a good field kick, he's a good kick at goal, and I think he's just a traditional tap ruckman, and I think that's what we need more of.
I think it's a bit of a shame that because I think naturally Drapes, one, he's the athlete. Like, he's explosive, as we know. He's aggressive, which you just can't really teach. You got it or you don't. Unfortunately, he just can't kick. Like, his skills are no good. So, ideally, you want that aggressive guy who's crashing packs up forward, or can spend a bit more time up forward and then, going into the guts, like, when he needs to. But the kicking just kind of takes him out of that role. I think we have to do it anyway because we don't have anywhere else where we can really play him. Whereas Bryan, I think you're right. Like, he's the skillful one. I think what people don't realise and don't appreciate all the time is that as a ruckman, you don't have to be. Not every ruckman has to be the real aggressor. Like, look at Max Gawn. He's not that. That's never been him. He's the one around the ground, runs his ass off, runs his opponent off their feet, and gets forward, gets into dangerous positions, helps up back as well, and has fixed his kicking from early days. So I know that's a huge standard, really high standard for Bryan to try and achieve, but if he can get like remotely close to that, and there's been a number of, if not more, ruckmen who have not actually been that necessarily that aggressive ruckman.
Goldstein wasn't aggressive.
Yeah.
Goldstein's one of the best ruckmen we've had last 20 years.
They use strategy, they use tactical nous, they, know when to use their knee, they know how to use their body, and they get forward and get back and, work their opponents over. Dean Cox is one of those as well. Like 100%. There's just been heaps of them who can do that. So that he's only ever going to get to that stage if he's actually given the opportunity. And so far, he just has not been given that opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. He's always been the one who's getting subbed off during a game, or even just not playing the team, playing VFL. Like,
exactly right.
I think,
and when he's getting the numbers that he's been getting, like he started to get a few more games, I know, towards the end of last year, but even prior to that, like his numbers were ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's getting clearances, he was taking marks, he was getting 50 plus hit outs as well. Not much more he could have done.
Yeah,
I think he'd be leaving the club if he spent a minute in the VFL this year because there's fundamentally no reason. If Goldstein plays a minute of AFL time, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Big time.
Someone's going to be injured. But yeah, hopefully they can learn a thing or two from Goldie.
We got Cale Guerin as well.
Another good veggie.
About longevity. Next question, fellas. This is from, I think you'll like this one, Murdy. This is from J Mazza 2002 via Instagram. He says, any thoughts on James Hird being on Footy Classified? You alluded to it before, but I'm sure you're just watching every minute of it now that he's on there.
I still won't watch it, but has there ever been anything better than fucking Caroline Wilson getting sacked for Jimmy Hurd?
Yeah.
Oh, he's risen again, and isn't it glorious?
Yeah.
It's always going to happen.
It's good. Yeah. Look, I also haven't watched the show. I've watched some clips on social media, as often is the case in my life, not watching terrestrial television. But are you happy to see Jay Hurd back on television?
Look, I'm happy he's doing so well and he's backing up and about, but I will not watch a second of that. I hate Footy Classified.
Sam McClure, Jesus.
There's a lot that could be said.
There's so many. I mean, there is a lot of footy shows these days. Like
they're not going to pick him, Rob. They're not going to pick him.
They're not going to pick him. They're not going to pick him.
So smug.
Yeah.
That's
look,
it.
yeah. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves, to be honest, because we're clearly living in the era of one of the all-time GOAT trolls that's ever existed on the face of this earth. And people just go, oh, he's got no clue about footy. Clearly, he's just a troll. Like, he lives under a bridge and he lives to troll everyone, and he's one of the GOATs.
That's all well and good, Rob, but I just don't think he's actually respected anywhere.
He takes hot takes too seriously.
Yeah.
Everything's a hot take.
He lives under a bridge.
Yeah.
He's a troll.
Like, salami good in a sandwich? I prefer ham.
I do prefer ham, actually. This one's from Matt Dobbs, via Facebook. He says, why do multiple AFC players swamp the ball carrier and let the ball receivers run away unchecked? We'll just get Brad Scott in for this one. Yeah, Brad, your thoughts over there?
It's like under 12 stuff, isn't it? Fundamentally, it's just, I don't know what they've been told to do, but it's wrong.
I don't think we do it as bad as we used to do it, but I guess it's all just a pressure on the ball carrier type thing. But
2 guys is enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see 4 dudes run it, and then there's a copious amounts of opponents just free. It's just aggravating. But the funny thing, I was watching the Collingwood loss on the weekend, which was the best thing that came out of opening weekend. They did the same thing. You watch them, and yet they just gravitate to whoever had the ball, and then orange jumpers just everywhere. It was sensational to watch.
Looked bloody good, GWS.
Oh, yeah,
that's great.
And they didn't even have the package.
No.
Or Tom Green.
Or Hogan.
Yeah.
Or Hogan.
That was a VFL side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Finn Callahan, when that came out, it was like the supposed 17 million for 10 years. I thought, is he worth it? Then I watched the game and I went, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, he might. Yeah, he might. Do you remember that game? I think it was Nick Martin's first game where we got flogged by Geelong by
remember it.
10, 15 goals. Yeah. That was for me the peak of Essendon players beast to a honeypot, where we'd all just run at like Dangerfield and then no one would tackle him, or he would just handball it over the top to someone else, and then just paddocks of space.
Yeah,
paddocks of space.
We're just such a good club.
Yeah. We'll do a couple more, then we'll wrap up, fellas. This one's from Jake Robert via Facebook. Is it better for the playing group to miss out on the 8 again, or to make the 8 and lose a final? Mert?
Yeah, I don't think we really have to contemplate it, to be frank. I always think finals experience is much better, and we're better off for having it. And I think you want to drive those standards, you want to aim for it, and you want to be obviously aiming to really be winning a flag, which obviously means winning finals. But yeah, I think they're all... the standard lifts substantially, as we all know, for finals. So we need to get that experience, our young players.
I agree. As hard as it would be as a supporter, I think it's best for the playing group to be playing finals. Win, lose or draw, it's for their benefit.
Yeah, what are we, 2 or 3 years out of finals now? Is it just 2 or is it the 3? Oh my God. Because I know, so it's 23.
It was the Dogs, wasn't it?
20, yeah, so that was 21. Was that the one down 21. In Tassie?
Yeah.
So it's been 22, 23, 24. So, geez, I don't, in my lifetime, I don't think we've missed it. Maybe in those really bad last sheety years. But I kind of have gone between the two, but I think the team's so significantly different now that I think getting to the finals would be good experience, like you're saying.
You can't tell me that like getting, Jai Caldwell and Durham and Martin and those guys, getting them finals games couldn't be beneficial for us in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
Even, Kako and the guys like that who are just getting them adjusted, because I think the biggest issue that I've always had, and it's never been vocalised by the club, but I've always been concerned that mediocrity is totally fine at the club. I know that I think there's been so much significant change, and I hope that's changing, and Vozo says it's changing, and Scott says it's changing, and rah. But I think things have changed enough now that we go, no, these guys should expect to play finals, and it should be disappointing if they're on holidays in September. So, yeah, I think if we're playing finals and losing is better than missing it, because right now, how many more years could we do before suddenly good players at the club just go, you know what, I'm out?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a very good point. Let's just do one more. This is a silly one. This is from Gally92 on Instagram. He says, how many Cheetos could 2-Meter Peter fit in his mouth?
Gotta be thinking 63.
63. That's
He's
a lot of
big
Cheetos.
dude.
He's a big dude.
I mean, he's got not much else on at the moment, so he could practice.
Yeah. How many
I reckon
Cheetos?
disappointingly not that many.
Yeah. I don't like...
Don't they dissolve a bit, though? So are we counting the dissolving?
I
Because they're very light, aren't they?
feel like it's like you get a handful and you just got to get as many as you can. Like, you can't just let it sit there and
Wait,
dissolve.
Cheetos or Cheezels?
Oh, Cheezels, he's getting 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, he's written Cheetos. Are they the same thing?
Cheetos? No,
Cheetos are the
Cheetos
soft
are like
balls.
the little balls.
Oh, that's right.
That's
yeah.
why I'm
get
like, they
heaps in
dissolve
those.
so
Oh,
quickly.
yeah. I'm
They're
thinking-
like the new polystyrene.
Yeah, I'm
thing.
thinking of Cheezels. Okay, then yeah. Well, then yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, it's up above 50. Definitely above 50.
No, I don't reckon.
Got to be
No?
a time limit.
What do you think? Like 20 something?
I reckon like 17.
17.
Yeah,
Even as
something
an
really
eater.
shit.
And then when
Even
he
if-
goes, he gags on it. And goes,
Yeah.
Even as an
Choke
eater,
on
he's
it.
underwhelming.
Yeah.
I think he could eat more.
He's no Joey Chestnut.
No Joey Chestnut. I'm tempted to go get some Cheetos on the way home and just test it
I
for
need to
myself.
test this out. I was thinking that just then.
I was like, I'm just being at home, just shoveling
Can
Cheetos
you film
in
it? Just for the record.
Just for the record, yeah, I'll put it on Instagram and I'll get 100 comments being like, what the fuck's this?
Yeah.
What's this dumb shit? I follow this for Essendon content, not dumbasses putting Cheetos in their mouth. Anyway,
be better.
fellas, for a season preview take 2 edition, I thought that was pretty good.
Pretty good.
That was pretty good. Lovely to see you back in the studio, Mert. Any final thoughts before we doze off for an evening?
Up Hurdy, fuck Caro, basically.
Fuck Karen, yeah. I think we're all here for that. Ryan, final thoughts from you?
I will have a blog up this week with the word hope in it about 257 times. So
Yep.
that is the vibe that I'm going with, hope.
Hope.
Because that's all we've got right now.
Yep. Yeah. Control F hope when you're reading it, everyone. Just get that counter going. Obviously, with the blog coming out this week, James is doing a opposition preview with Brad from the Hawks Insiders. So we'll get the lowdown on how incredibly massive the Hawks fans' heads are right now after steamrolling the Swans in opening round, and then just having Tom Barrass in their team and all of that. And then Thursday, assuming there's not another cyclone in Melbourne this week, we will be doing our first match preview pod on the premium feed. I don't even know who's on it. I haven't even checked. Let's check the roster. Are you on it, Mert? I don't think you're on it.
No idea.
I don't think
Never
Ryan's
checked
on
the
it.
roster in my life.
I don't think
You just rocked up today.
Yeah. I don't think Ryan's on it because you're about to have a child. Let's see
I'll
who's
see you
on
on
it.
Anzac.
Oh,
Smart Damo?
Oh, it's Smart Damo. Bang.
Fuck
Bang.
Yeah.
High quality. Yeah. If you want some high quality analysis leading into the Friday night game, Smart Damo. Love that. Listeners, thank you for viewing or listening. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on basically every social media platform that exists these days. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok. I don't know, what's that Chinese one? Red Note. I'm not on there yet, but maybe I'll get on there and start posting stuff in Cantonese and Mandarin. Subscribe to Premium if you want to get an extra show, $5 a month. We're going to be putting up some old merch on sale soon that's like 50% off because it's old, and then we're going to have some new stuff coming out. So,
Like the tipper?
no, just some of the old caps and stuff. We've got new caps coming and new beanies coming.
Oh,
so
sweet. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, so got some new stuff coming, and use the Sash at discount on the Swish for 10% off. Helps the show if you.
You got any
take a start.
Paco t-shirts left?
Nope, Backos are gone.
Sold out?
Sold out.
Yeah.
Sold out. No,
Just dyed 'em orange.
Bugger.
Stop printing those. But gonna have some hats and beanies up on sale before we launch our Planes 2.0. Just coming soon. So thanks everyone. We'll see you tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever these other pods come out or whenever Ryan puts his blog out. But until then, go Planes.